The conference room on Earth's orbital platform felt smaller than usual. David Walsh sat across from 3 alien delegates who had traveled 6 months to deliver their message. The creatures were tall with blue-gray skin that seemed to shimmer under the station's lights. Their leader, Admiral Rinth, placed a data chip on the table between them. "This contains our terms," Rinth said through his translation device. His voice carried the weight of someone used to being obeyed. "Your species will submit to Galactic Empire authority. Within 48 hours, you will dismantle your military. You will provide 30% of your resources as tribute. You will accept imperial governance." David picked up the chip, examined it briefly, then set it back down. "And if we refuse?" Ren's expression shifted into what might have been amusement. "We have studied your civilization for 3 months. Your weapons technology is primitive. You still use chemical propulsion for most spacecraft. Your energy shields cannot withstand our plasma cannons. We have conquered 470 civilizations. Many were more advanced than yours." "I see," David said. He looked at the other 2 delegates who remained silent. "Thank you for traveling so far to deliver this message. I'm afraid Earth must decline your offer." The Admiral leaned back in his chair. The gesture seemed practiced theatrical. "You understand what this means. Our fleet currently orbits your moon. 300 warships, each one capable of reducing your cities to ash. We are giving you a chance to survive." David stood and smoothed his jacket. "I appreciate the consideration. However, humanity chooses to remain independent. I must ask that your fleet withdraw from our space within the next 12 hours. One of the other delegates made a sound that the translator interpreted as laughter. Admiral Rinth stood as well, towering over David by nearly 2 feet. 48 hours. Ambassador Walsh, consider your people, consider your planet. This conversation is over." The aliens left the conference room in a procession that seemed designed to intimidate. David waited until the door sealed behind them before touching his earpiece. "Dr. Akefer, are you monitoring?" Every word came the response. "Dr. Amy." Ofer's voice carried none of the tension that filled the room moments before. "They're exactly as arrogant as we predicted." "Good. How long until they're back on their flagship?" "Their shuttle just launched 20 minutes to docking." David walked to the window and stared at Earth below. Clouds swirled over the Pacific Ocean. Somewhere down there his daughter was probably eating breakfast before school. The thought steadied him. "Activate protocol, Shepard." "Confirmed. Activating now." The protocol had taken 15 years to develop, another 10 to perfect. Humanity had known for decades that contact with other civilizations was inevitable. The discovery of faster-than-light travel by other species had been detected 30 years ago through their quantum signatures. Since then, Earth's brightest minds had worked on a single question: how do you protect a planet when others have better weapons? The answer hadn't been to build better weapons. David returned to his office on the station and opened his secure terminal. Screens filled with data streams from around the solar system. Numbers scrolled past faster than any human could read, but he understood what they meant. Every satellite, every probe, every piece of human technology was now linked through the quantum network, the system that made Protocol Shepard possible. His second screen showed the Imperial fleet, 300 ships arranged in a sphere around Earth's moon. Each vessel was massive, dwarfing anything humanity had built. Their weapon systems glowed with stored energy. Admiral Renth clearly believed this show of force would convince Earth to surrender. Dr. Afir's status on the network: all nodes responding. We have full coverage. And the packages deployed and waiting. They won't detect anything until we want them to. David allowed himself a small smile. The packages were the key to everything. Small probes no larger than a basketball, powered by quantum entanglement drives. Traditional sensors couldn't detect them. They existed in a state of quantum superposition until activated, and right now thousands of them surrounded the Imperial fleet, invisible and waiting. His terminal chimed, an incoming message from Earth's Defense Council. David opened it and scanned the contents. The council had voted unanimously to proceed with his recommendation: no surrender, no negotiation. Humanity would stand firm. Another message arrived, this one from Admiral Renth. The text was brief and threatening. A countdown timer appeared on screen: 47 hours and 52 minutes until the Empire's deadline. David closed both messages and opened a third screen. This one showed a feed from deep space, 2,000 light years from Earth. The image focused on a blue-green planet orbiting a yellow star, the Imperial home world, Draveness, capital of an empire that spanned 10,000 systems. Above the planet's largest city, invisible to every sensor the Empire possessed, floated a single human probe. It had arrived there 3 minutes ago. David touched his earpiece again. Dr. Afir, I need you to run one final check. Make absolutely certain our calculations are correct. When we reveal what we've done, there's no going back. Running diagnostics now. A pause. David, all systems are green. We can reach any point in the galaxy instantly. The Empire has no defense against this. I know, that's what worries me. He looked at the image of Draveness again. We're about to change everything. We already have, Amy replied. They just don't know it yet. David scheduled a response to Admiral Ren's message. Not a surrender, not a plea for mercy, instead an invitation. He requested a face-to-face meeting aboard the Imperial flagship in 6 hours. Neutral ground, one final chance for dialogue before events spiraled beyond anyone's control. The response came back within minutes. Renth agreed, probably viewing it as Earth's attempt to negotiate better terms of surrender. The Admiral had no idea what David planned to show him. Protocol Shepard was active. The network was live. Humanity's secret was about to become the galaxy's biggest surprise. David looked at Earth one more time, then began preparing for the most important conversation of his life. Admiral Renth reviewed the tactical displays with satisfaction. His flagship, the Dominion's Fist, hung in perfect formation with the rest of the Fourth Fleet. Around him, officers worked at their stations with practiced efficiency. The command deck hummed with the sound of a well-oiled military machine. Status report, he commanded. Captain. Yara stepped forward, her data pad glowing with information. All ships report ready. Status: weapons charged to 80%, shields at maximum. We've completed our scan of human defensive capabilities. And Yara hesitated. Admiral, their technology is approximately 200 years behind ours. Their fastest ships use fusion drives, their weapons are primarily kinetic projectiles and basic energy weapons. We detected minimal shielding on their orbital platforms. Minimal. Renth turned to Facer. Quantify that our shields can withstand direct hits from plasma cannons rated at 10,000 terawatt. Human weapons appear to generate less than 50 terawatt. The ratio is approximately 200 to 1 in our favor. Renth nodded. This matched his expectations and their fleet size. 50 combat vessels total, most are destroyer class or smaller. We have 300 capital ships. The engagement would be over in minutes. Another officer spoke up from the scanning station. Admiral, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from various points around the solar system. Small quantum fluctuations, nothing that matches known weapon systems. Elaborate. It's probably their communication network, sir. Primitive quantum entanglement for faster data transmission. Nothing dangerous. Renth dismissed the concern with a wave. Continue monitoring. Inform me if anything changes. He turned back to the main display where Earth rotated slowly. Beneath them, such a small planet to cause such inconvenience, the Empire had given them a generous offer, subjugation. With minimal casualties, many species had accepted similar terms, but humans had refused. Renth had conquered 47 civilizations. During his career, some had resisted. Initially, all had eventually surrendered. Humans would be no different. They would see the futility of resistance and accept the inevitable. Sir, the human ambassador is requesting permission to dock. His shuttle is approaching now. One person. Renth asked. Yes, sir. Ambassador Walsh is alone. No escort, no weapons detected. How arrogant. Renth almost admired it. Grant permission. Bring him directly to the conference room. I want to see what pathetic terms he offers. The shuttle docked smoothly. Renth watched through security feeds as David Walsh stepped out carrying only a small data tablet. The human was unremarkable in appearance, average height for his species, no military bearing. He walked like a civilian, not a soldier. Guards escorted Walsh through the ship's corridors. Renth made him wait outside the conference room for exactly 10 minutes, a small psychological tactic. Let the human understand his place. Let him feel the weight of imperial power. When Walsh finally entered, Renth was seated at the head of a long table. Captain Yara stood to his right. 2 other senior officers flanked the left side. The room's walls displayed images of imperial victories, burning cities, surrendering fleets, conquered worlds. Ambassador Walsh, Renth said without rising, I assume you've come to discuss terms of surrender. David sat down across from him, placing his tablet on the table. Actually, Admiral, I came to give you a demonstration. A demonstration. Renth exchanged glances with Yara. Of what exactly? Of why this conflict cannot end the way you expect. David activated his tablet. A holographic projection appeared above the table. It showed a planet, blue and green, oceans and continents clearly visible. Renth recognized it immediately. That's Dravenus, our home world. Yes, David said calmly. 600 light years from here. I wanted you to see something. The image zoomed in, focusing on the capital city. Massive towers reached toward the sky. Billions of imperial citizens lived there, and hovering above the central government District clearly visible in the feed. Was a small object. What is that, Yara? Asked, leaning closer. A human probe. David replied, it arrived in orbit. Around your home world 3 minutes ago. The room went silent. Renth stared at the image, his mind racing. Impossible. Our sensors would have detected any approaching vessel weeks in advance. Nothing can travel that distance in 3 minutes. Your sensors did not detect it because it didn't travel through normal space. David swiped his tablet and the display changed. Now it showed multiple planets, dozens of them. Each one had a small human probe in orbit. These are all Imperial worlds, core systems, military installations, colony planets. Every single one now has a human probe nearby. Renth shot to his feet. You're lying. This is some kind of trick. I wish I was. David remained seated, his voice steady. Your own sensors can verify this. Check your home world. Check any planet you want. The probes are there. They all arrived simultaneously. Approximately 4 minutes ago. Captain Yara was already working her data pad, her expression growing more alarmed with each passing second. Admiral, I'm receiving reports from Fleet Command. They confirm unauthorized objects in orbit around Draveness, Kelmer, Thresh, and 17 other core worlds. How many? Renth demanded. Yara's voice was barely a whisper. Thousands, sir. They're appearing everywhere. Our sensors didn't detect them arriving. They just appeared. David stood now, meeting Renth's gaze. We didn't spend the last 50 years building better weapons, Admiral. We spent that time solving a different problem. We mastered instantaneous transportation, quantum entanglement on a scale you can't imagine. Distance doesn't matter anymore, not to us. You're saying you can move objects anywhere in the galaxy instantly? Yara asked. Yes, ships, supplies, weapons, anything we want. Your fleet is 6 months from the nearest Imperial base. You travel faster than light, but it still takes weeks to cross significant distances. We can reinforce any position immediately. We can strike anywhere without warning. We can be in 1,000 places at once. Renth's mind struggled to process this. If true, it changed everything, every principle of warfare, every strategic advantage the Empire possessed, all of it became meaningless against an enemy who could be everywhere simultaneously. The probes are harmless, David continued. We put them there to prove a point, but they could have been anything: weapons, soldiers, ships. Think about what that means, Admiral. You threaten the Empire. Ren's hand moved toward his weapon. Captain Yara grabbed his arm. Sir, wait, he's not threatening, he's explaining. David nodded. She's right, I'm not here to threaten. I'm here to prevent a war that you cannot win. Your fleet is impressive, your weapons are powerful, but none of it matters if we can appear behind your lines instantly. You can't protect 10,000 worlds when we can strike any of them without traveling through space. Renth sank back into his chair, the implications crashing over him like a wave. Counselor Dreven studied the emergency reports flooding his terminal. At 300 years old, he was the eldest member of the Imperial High Council. He had witnessed the rise of the Empire, from a collection of wearing systems to a galactic superpower. He had seen technologies come and go. He had advised 7 different emperors. Nothing in his long experience had prepared him for this. The humans are bluffing, Counselor Wrath insisted, packing the council chamber. They've somehow placed a few probes near Our worlds, perhaps they had them in position for months, hidden somehow. This proves nothing about instantaneous travel. The probes appeared simultaneously across 10,000 light years. Drevin replied quietly, "Our sensor networks confirm identical appearance times. Even our fastest ships cannot achieve such coordination." The council chamber filled with arguing voices, 12 counselors representing different species, different planets, different philosophies, united only by their membership in the Empire. Today, that unity was fracturing. Drevin activated the central hologram. It displayed the known galaxy with every Imperial world marked in blue. As he watched, red dots appeared around each blue marker, thousands of red dots. Human probes. The display made the situation horrifyingly clear. Humanity had reached every corner of Imperial space in minutes, even if they can transport objects instantly. Another counselor argued they still lack military power. Their weapons are primitive, their ships are few. We can still crush them. With what? Drevin asked. Our fleets are scattered across the galaxy. It takes months to gather significant forces. Meanwhile, humans can move their entire military to any point. We're vulnerable. How do you defend against that? Admiral Rent's hologram appeared in the chamber. He looked shaken, his usual confidence gone. Council members, I recommend immediate withdrawal from human space and opening diplomatic negotiations. Withdrawal, Vrath practically shouted. The Empire does not retreat from primitives. These primitives have demonstrated capability far beyond ours in a critical area. Renth replied, I have seen the evidence firsthand. We cannot fight an enemy who controls space and time itself. Drevin muted the arguing counselors and opened a private channel to Renth. Admiral, give me your honest tactical assessment. Ren's image flickered. Counselor, I have fought 47 campaigns. I understand warfare. This is not warfare. This is obsolescence. Everything we know about military strategy assumes that moving forces takes time. Humans have eliminated that factor. They can reinforce faster than we can attack. They can strike faster than we can defend. Our numerical superiority means nothing. What do you recommend? Accept their terms. Leave them alone. Do not provoke them further. Drevin closed the channel and unmuted the council. Vrath was still arguing for war, but several other counselors now looked uncertain. The display of red dots surrounding every Imperial world was difficult to ignore. We should test their defenses, Wrath said. Send a small strike force against one of their minor colonies. See if their technology works in actual combat. Several counselors murmured agreement. Drevin recognized the political calculation. Wrath needed to save face, needed to show strength. A small engagement against a minor target would give the war faction something to point to, even if they lost. Admiral Renth, Drevin said, do you believe such a test is wise? Renth's hesitation was telling. I believe it would confirm what we already know, but if the council demands proof, the council demands proof. Wrath interrupted. Select a target, Admiral. Something small and isolated. Let's see if human technology is as impressive in battle as it is in demonstrations. Drevin voted against the measure, but he was outvoted 8-4. The council authorized what they called a limited engagement. Renth was ordered to attack a human mining colony on an asteroid called Siriusir. The target was chosen, specifically because it was far from Earth, lightly defended, and economically insignificant. Renth selected 30 ships for the strike. Force, enough to overwhelm any defense, but not enough to be considered an invasion. Captain Yara would command the tactical operation while Renth observed. From his flagship, the strike force departed 6 hours later. Drevin watched their progress on the council's display. The ships moved through space at faster-than-light speeds, crossing millions of kilometers in hours. By Imperial standards, this was normal, expected, the way warfare had been conducted for thousands of years. But humans had changed the rules. Ceres colony appeared on the scans, a small mining operation carved into a massive asteroid. Population maybe 5,000. 5 human ships guarded the installation. Tiny vessels compared to Imperial warships. The tactical odds were 6-1 in the Empire's favor. Entering weapons range, Yara reported human ships are holding position. No retreat, no reinforcements detected. They're going to fight, Renth observed. With 5 ships against 30, they must be insane, Wrath commented from the council chamber. Drevin said nothing. He simply watched and waited for the humans to reveal their next surprise. Yara ordered her ships into attack formation, a standard Imperial tactic. Overwhelming firepower concentrated on the weakest targets first. The lead ships charged their plasma cannons. Energy readings spiked across the scanners. Fire, Yara commanded. 30 ships unleashed their weapons simultaneously. Brilliant streams of superheated plasma across the distance to the human vessels, enough energy to vaporize small moons. The shots were perfect, tracking impossible to evade. The human ships vanished. What? Yara stared at her displays. Where did they go? Behind us, her tactical officer shouted. The 5 human ships had reappeared in formation behind the Imperial fleet. Drevin watched as the engagement turned into chaos. Human ships flickered in and out of existence, appearing at impossible angles, making every Imperial shot miss. Empty space. Then the human ships opened fire. Their weapons looked primitive. Simple missiles, chemical rockets that Imperial shields should block. Effortlessly, Yara's ships raised their energy barriers, confident in their defenses. The missiles vanished. Mid-flight, they reappeared inside the Imperial shield perimeters, already past the defenses, striking hull plating directly. Shields are useless, Yara reported, her voice tight with stress. They're teleporting weapons past our barriers. We have no defense against this. Explosions rippled across Imperial ships, not catastrophic damage. Humans were targeting engines and weapon systems, disabling rather than destroying. Within minutes, half of Yara's fleet was crippled. Communication request came through on all Imperial frequencies. Yara accepted it. David Walsh appeared on screen, calling from Earth 600 million km away. Captain Yara, he said calmly, I'm giving you one chance to withdraw. Your ships are disabled, not destroyed. We can still avoid further casualties. Yara looked at her tactical display. Her fleet was scattered and damaged. Human ships continued to flicker around them, impossible to track or target. She had lost before the battle truly began. Admiral Renth, she said quietly, I recommend we accept Ambassador Walsh's offer. Renth's voice carried the weight of defeat. Dr. Amy Ofer stood in the quantum research facility beneath Switzerland surrounded by the technology that had changed everything. The massive chamber stretched 50 m in every direction, filled with quantum processors that hummed with barely contained energy. This was humanity's secret, the machine that made instantaneous travel possible. How many probes do we have deployed now? She asked her assistant. 14,000 in counting, replied the young woman. Monitoring the quantum network. We're maintaining coverage on every major Imperial installation. No energy spikes. No weapons charging. They're staying quiet. Amy nodded, but her expression remained tense. She had spent 20 years developing this technology. She understood its power better than anyone. Humanity now possessed the ultimate strategic advantage. They could be anywhere instantly without warning. Traditional warfare had become obsolete. But power like this made people desperate. Her terminal chimed with an incoming message from David Walsh. She accepted the call and his face appeared. On screen he looked tired. Negotiations with the Empire had been ongoing for 6 hours. Amy, we have a problem, he said without preamble. Imperial Council is splitting. Half want peace, the other half want to save face. They're talking about deploying something called the Extinction Protocol. Amy's blood went cold. What is that? We don't know yet. Our intelligence is limited, but the context suggests it's a weapon of last resort, something they've kept hidden. David paused. Can your sensors detect any unusual energy signatures in Imperial space? Amy turned to her monitoring station. The quantum network could detect massive energy sources across vast distances. It was how they had mapped the Empire's infrastructure in the first place. She ran a deep scan, searching for anomalies. Nothing appeared for several seconds. Then her system flagged something in deep space, 2,000 light years from Earth, an energy signature so massive it made her breath catch. I've got something, she said slowly. It's enormous. Energy output equivalent to a small star. It's been there all along, but dormant. Now it's starting to activate. Location. Sending coordinates. Now Amy transmitted the data while simultaneously running analysis. David, whatever this is, it's ancient. The energy signature doesn't match modern Imperial technology. This is something they discovered, not something they built. On David's end, she could hear rapid typing. I'm cross-referencing with our intelligence data. There are mentions in old Imperial records about a weapon left behind by a previous civilization, something called the World Breaker. That's a cheerful name, Amy muttered. Her scanners were providing more information now. The energy is building slowly. At current rate, it will reach critical levels in approximately 28 minutes. Can you tell what it's targeting? Amy ran trajectory calculations based on the weapon's orientation. The answer made her stomach drop. Earth, David, it's pointing at Earth. Silence on the other end of the call. Then we need to stop it. Can we teleport something to disrupt it? I don't know. We've never tried to transport objects to an active energy source that large. The quantum interference might make it impossible. Amy was already working the problem, her fingers flying across multiple keyboards. But I can try. She pulled up schematics of human weapons. Nothing they had could damage something generating that much energy. Conventional explosives would be like throwing pebbles at a mountain. Even their most powerful bombs would barely scratch it unless David, I have an idea. It's risky, but it might work. I'm listening. We don't need to destroy the weapon. We just need to disrupt its power source. If I can teleport something directly into its energy core, we might be able to destabilize it. What would you teleport? Nothing. I'd create a quantum void. Basically, teleport empty space into the middle of the power core. The sudden vacuum would cause a cascade failure. David was quiet for a moment. That's never been tested. No, it hasn't, and I'm not even sure it will work. The energy levels involved are beyond anything we've dealt with. Amy checked her calculations again. I'd need to be absolutely precise. One mistake and we could make things worse. How much worse? Worst case scenario, we could trigger an immediate detonation instead of disabling it. In best case, the weapon shuts down permanently. We'd have roughly 26 minutes to make the attempt. Another call was coming through on David's end. Amy could hear voices in the background. Urgent, worried. Then David was back. Amy, Captain Yara just contacted us. She's defecting from the Imperial fleet. She says the weapon is controlled by Counselor Wrath directly. He's acting without full council authority. Can she shut it down? No, the activation codes are biometrically locked to Wrath alone, but she's providing technical specifications. David paused. Amy, according to this data, the world breaker doesn't just destroy planets, it creates a chain reaction in the planet's core. Earth would explode from the inside out. Nothing would survive. Amy felt her hands shaking. She forced them. Still, send me everything Yar provided. I need to refine my calculations. The data arrived seconds later. Amy fed it into her analysis systems. The picture that emerged was terrifying. The weapon worked by firing a beam that would tunnel through Earth's crust and mantle, reaching the planet's core in seconds. Once there, it would inject exotic matter that would destabilize the core's nuclear reactions. Earth would tear itself apart. 10 billion people lived on that planet. Amy's family, David's daughter, everyone humanity had ever known. 24 minutes, she announced. That's all we have. Do it, David said. Try your quantum void idea. It's our best chance. Amy assembled her team. 5 of the world's top quantum physicists, all working frantically to solve an impossible problem. Create a stable void in space. Teleport it 2,000 light years away. Insert it precisely into the center of an active weapon generating starla energy, and do all of this in less than half an hour. The calculations were insane. The margin for error was microscopic. One variable wrong and the attempt would fail. Worse, it might accelerate the weapon's firing sequencer. 15 minutes, someone called out. Amy's hands moved across the controls, programming the quantum entanglement coordinates. The targeting had to be perfect. She was aiming for a point smaller than an atom inside a massive energy field across thousands of light years. She thought about the irony. Humanity had developed this technology to defend themselves, to make war impossible. Now they were using it in the most desperate gamble of their existence. 10 minutes, the quantum processors began charging. Energy levels in the facility climbed toward maximum. Warning alarms sounded as they pushed the systems beyond safe limits. The risk of catastrophic failure increased with every second, but they had no choice. Amy checked her calculations one final time. Everything looked right. Theoretically sound, but theory and practice were very different things. 5 minutes to critical, her assistant reported. The weapon is fully charged. So are we, Amy replied. She placed her hand over the activation control. Everyone clear the chamber. Get to minimum safe distance. If this goes wrong, I don't want anyone else caught. In the feedback, her team hesitated. Then slowly they filed out. Only Amy remained standing alone in the massive chamber with her hand on a button that would determine Earth's fate. Captain Yara transmitted the final piece of technical data and then sat back in her quarters aboard the Dominion's fist. She had just committed treason. By Imperial law, the penalty was death. By her own conscience, she had done the only right thing. Her door chimed. She opened it to find Admiral Renth standing there alone. May I come in? He asked quietly. She stepped aside. Renth entered and the door sealed behind him. For a long moment neither spoke. Then Renth sat down heavily in her only chair. I know what you did, he said. I monitored your transmission to the humans. Yara straightened her spine, ready to accept whatever came next. Then you know I've betrayed the Empire. You've saved it. Renth looked older than she had ever seen him. Wrath has gone mad, activating the world breaker without council authorization is itself an act of treason, but I cannot stop him. Weapons controls are beyond my reach. The humans can stop it, Yara said. I gave them everything I know about the weapons design. Will it be enough? I don't know. The world breaker was built by the ancients. We barely understand how it works. We've kept it hidden for 2,000 years, hoping never to use it. She paused. Admiral, if Earth is destroyed, the humans will retaliate. They can reach every Imperial world instantly. We'll have started a war that will devastate both civilizations. Renth nodded slowly. I've been a soldier my entire life. I've conquered worlds. I've killed in the name of the Empire. I thought I understood the cost of war. He looked up at her. But this is different. This isn't conquest. This is annihilation. What will you do? I've sent a message to Counselor Drevin, informed him of Wrath's unauthorized action. The Council is voting now on whether to remove Wrath from power, but even if they act, it may be too late. The weapon is already active. Yara's terminal chimed. She checked it and felt hope surge through her. Admiral, the humans are attempting something. Dr. Offer is trying to disable the weapon. They both moved to her monitor. The display showed sensor data from the world breaker's location. The massive energy signature pulsed steadily, building toward critical levels. Then something changed. A quantum fluctuation appeared inside the weapon's core. Not an explosion, not an attack, just an absence, a void where matter should exist. Amy's quantum vacuum. For 3 seconds nothing happened. The weapon continued charging. Unaffected, Yara felt her hope dying. Then the energy reading spiked wildly. The power core began fluctuating. The careful buildup of energy suddenly became chaotic, unstable. Warning indicators flashed across the display as the weapon systems tried and failed to compensate for the void at their center. It's working, Renth breath. The world breaker's energy signature began dropping rapidly, not gradually shut down, but collapsing in on itself. Quantum void was spreading, creating a cascade of failures throughout the weapon's ancient systems. Within 30 seconds, the energy output had fallen by half. Within a minute, it was down to 20%. The weapon had been disarmed. Yara's terminal chimed again, this time with a message from Earth, from David. Walsh, she accepted the call and his face appeared on screen, exhausted but relieved. Captain Yara, thank you. Your information saved us. Dr. Offer succeeded. I can see that, Yara replied. Ambassador, what happens now? Now we talk real negotiations. No weapons, no threats, just two civilizations trying to find a way forward. David paused. I'm transmitting evidence of Counselor Rath's unauthorized weapon activation to your council. What they do with that information is their decision. Renth stepped into view of the camera. Ambassador Walsh, this is Admiral Renth. I formally request a ceasefire. All Imperial forces will withdraw from human space immediately. We will await your terms. David nodded. Terms are simple, Admiral. The Empire leaves humanity alone. In exchange, we remove our monitoring probes from Imperial space. We're not interested in conquest. We just want to be left in peace. That seems remarkably generous given that you just prevented us from destroying your home world. Renth observed. Revenge doesn't interest me. Building a future does. David smiled slightly. Besides, we've demonstrated our capabilities. Any future conflict would be mutually destructive. Better to avoid that entirely. A new face appeared on David's screen. Dr. Amy Ofer looked drained but determined. Admiral, I have a proposal. The quantum technology we've developed has applications beyond warfare, medical, transport, instant communication across the galaxy, resource distribution. We could share some of this with the Empire, not the weapons applications, but the peaceful ones. Yara leaned forward. You would do that after we tried to conquer you. Why not? Amy shrugged. Technology isn't good or evil. It's how we use it that matters. We can use it to fight each other, or we can use it to help each other. I'd prefer the latter. Renth's terminal chimed with an urgent message. He read it and his expression shifted. The council has voted. Counselor Rath has been removed from power and arrested. Counselor Dreven is now senior council member. He wishes to open formal negotiations with Earth. We accept, David said. Immediately. Captain Yara, would you be willing to serve as the Imperial liaison for these negotiations? Yara looked at Renth, who nodded. Yes. She said I would be honored. The call ended with agreements to meet again in 24 hours. Formal terms would be worked out, treaties would be signed, but the crisis was over. War had been averted. Yara stood and walked to her viewport, staring out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth hung in space, its 10 billion inhabitants unaware of how close they had come to extinction, and somewhere else, the Imperial home world continued its rotation, its people equally ignorant of the disaster that had been prevented. What are you thinking? Renth asked. I'm thinking about how warfare has changed, Yara replied. For thousands of years, the Empire won battles through superior firepower. We had bigger ships, better weapons. We controlled space through military might. And now we've encountered a species that made military might irrelevant. They didn't build better weapons. They changed the fundamental nature of conflict. She turned to face him. Admiral, I don't think the galaxy will ever be the same. Renth stood and joined her at the viewport. Perhaps that's a good thing. The Empire has grown Complacent, we assumed our way was the only way. Humans have shown us something different. Do you think the council will accept Dr. Afur's offer, the peaceful technology sharing? I think they will. Dreven is wise enough to see the opportunity. Renth paused. And perhaps wise enough to see that humanity isn't a threat to be eliminated. They're potential allies, partners in building something better than an empire built on conquest. Yara allowed herself a small smile. That's very progressive thinking for an Imperial Admiral. I'm a quick learner. 6 months had passed since the world breaker incident. The joint research station floated in neutral space, exactly halfway between Earth and the Imperial home world Draveness. It was a collaboration that would have been impossible to imagine a year ago. Dr. Amy Ofer walked through the station's central laboratory, observing humans and aliens working side by side. A young engineer from Earth was showing an Imperial scientist how quantum processors could be miniaturized. In another section, Imperial metallurgists were teaching humans about exotic materials that could withstand extreme conditions. Dr. Afir, we have the test results from yesterday's trial, her assistant called out. Amy joined her at a workstation. The data showed successful quantum transport of medical supplies across 12,000 light years, instantaneous delivery, no degradation, perfect precision. That's the 14th successful test, Amy noted. I think we're ready to implement the network on a larger scale. The Council has approved 300 transport nodes across Imperial space. The assistant replied, humanity is contributing another H100 red for our colonies. Combined network coverage will span most of the explored galaxy. Amy nodded, feeling satisfied. This was what the technology had always been meant for, not weapons, not warfare. Connection, the ability to help people across vast distances without the limitations of traditional travel. Her terminal chimed with an incoming call. David Walsh appeared on screen calling from Earth. Amy, I have news. The cultural exchange program has been approved. 20,000 Imperial citizens will visit Earth over the next year. An equal number of humans will tour Imperial worlds. That's fantastic. Who came up with that idea? Captain Yara. Actually, she argued, that fear comes from ignorance. If our people meet each other, talk to each other, understand each other, future conflicts become less likely. She's probably right. Amy glanced around the laboratory. We're seeing it here. Humans and Imperial scientists who were strangers 6 months ago are now friends. They share meals, they collaborate, they laugh at each other's jokes. It's a good foundation. David agreed, though there are still challenges. Some Imperial factions don't trust us. Some humans remain suspicious of the Empire. Change takes time. Commotion erupted near one of the workstations. Amy turned to see what was happening. An Imperial researcher had just solved a problem that had been frustrating the human team for weeks. They were celebrating together, species differences forgotten in the shared joy of discovery. I have to go, Amy said. We're making breakthrough after breakthrough here. I want to document everything. The call ended and Amy returned to work. Station hummed with activity. Every day brought new discoveries. Quantum physics met Imperial material science, human medical knowledge combined with alien biology. The potential was unlimited. That evening, Amy attended a ceremony. The station's common area, Admiral Renth, was presenting awards to several researchers who had made significant contributions. The Admiral had changed. In 6 months, he smiled more, spoke with less arrogance, seemed genuinely interested in building bridges rather than conquering worlds. Captain Yara stood beside him, now officially the Imperial ambassador to humanity. She had become one of the most vocal advocates for cooperation. Her speeches about the need for peace resonated across both civilizations. After the ceremony, Amy found herself standing at an observation window with Counselor Drevin. The old Imperial counselor had become a frequent visitor to the station, fascinated by the collaborative work happening there. Dr. Offer, I wanted to thank you personally, Drevin said. Your decision to share this technology rather than weaponize it exclusively has changed the trajectory of galactic civilization. I just did what seemed right, Amy replied. Technology is neutral. It's our choices that give it meaning. A wise perspective. Drevin gazed out at the stars. I've been thinking about how close we came to disaster if Wrath had succeeded, if you hadn't stopped the world breaker. Both our civilizations would have descended into a war that would have devastated the galaxy. But we didn't. We chose differently. Yes, and that choice has created something remarkable. Drevin gestured to the laboratory behind them. Look at them. Different species, different cultures, different evolutionary paths, all working together, learning from each other. This is unprecedented in Imperial history. Amy watched a human technician explaining something to 3 Imperial scientists. They were gathered around a holographic display, pointing and discussing with animated gestures. Language barriers had been overcome with translation technology. Cultural differences were being bridged through genuine curiosity and respect. Counselor, can I ask you something? Of course. The Empire has existed for thousands of years. It's conquered hundreds of worlds, built a massive civilization. Why did it take humanity to show you a different path? Drevin was quiet for a long moment. Because we forgot something important. The Empire was founded on cooperation. Multiple species coming together voluntarily, but over time we became focused on expansion, on power, on control. We stopped partnering with new species and started conquering them instead. And now humanity has reminded us what we used to be, what we could be. Again, Drevin smiled. You didn't defeat us militarily, Dr. Ofer. You defeated us philosophically. You showed us that there's a better way than endless conquest. A young Imperial researcher approached, excited about some discovery. Amy excused herself and went to see what had been found. The breakthrough involved combining human quantum technology with Imperial energy systems. The result was a power source that was 90% more efficient than anything either civilization had created alone. This was happening everywhere on the station. Hybrid technologies that neither species could have developed independently, each civilization bringing their strength to create something greater than the sum of its parts. Late that night, Amy sat alone in her quarters, reviewing the day's progress reports. Transformation was remarkable. 6 months ago, humans and Imperials were enemies. Now they were colleagues, friends, partners in exploration and discovery. Her terminal chimed with a message from Earth, from her daughter who was studying At university, the message was simple. Just checking in, asking about moms. Work, Amy smiled and composed a reply. Describing the breakthroughs, the collaborations, the hope. She didn't mention the world breaker, didn't talk about how close they had come to annihilation. That was in the past. Future was what mattered now, and the future looked bright across the station. In hundreds of laboratories and meeting rooms, humans and aliens continued their work, building understanding, creating technology, forging friendships. The transformation of two civilizations happening one conversation at a time. Admiral Rinth stood on the observation deck, looking at distant Earth, a planet he had once planned to conquer, now an ally, a partner, a friend. Captain Yara joined him, carrying 2 cups of what humans called coffee. She had developed a taste for it. Thinking about the past, she asked. Thinking about the future, Rinth replied, wondering what other species might be out there, what other civilizations we might meet, and what we'll do when we meet them. Talk first, fight never if we can help it. He accepted the coffee. Humanity taught us that lesson well. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, the galaxy continued its ancient rotation. Civilizations rose and fell, empires expanded and contracted, but here in this small station, something different was happening, something better. The Galactic Empire had feared many things in its long history: weapons, armies,